You ever do any up downs out there like Marv does? It seems like
I could knock out a couple push-ups every now and again.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
no up downs, but push-ups.
Well, it's been a while since we talked to you. I mean, how do you sort of assess the offense so far these first couple of weeks?
I think we're growing. Don't think we've hit our stride. We want to play much better. Obviously, I mean, our job is to put points on the board, and we're not doing that at a high enough level. It's taken us too long to get going. I did think we made some improvements in starting fast last game. That was a big improvement, something we harped on all week. But there's a number of situational areas that we have to improve on. Third down has been an issue at times. That's been a point of emphasis. Red zone, obviously red zone scoring touchdowns, particularly in the last game. So those are things we're talking about and going through as coaches and echo into the players of what we need to change to move forward to be better in those areas. But we've got to play much better.
When we talked to Coach Pry, he said the intent of the offense should be to get drones playing his best. Everything
Yep.
sort of focuses on that. And maybe saw a step in that direction last week. Did you feel the same thing? And what did you think that maybe he did better last week than compared to the first couple of weeks?
Yeah, I thought he was comfortable. I thought he played within himself. I thought he was able to open up things, seeing man coverage, taking off, things that I've seen him do a million times. I thought he just played more like himself. It's always good to get him involved in the run game early. I think that has an effect for our offense. So it was good to see that in the last game, keeping us efficient and keeping us on track. But not just Kyron, for the whole offense, our message has been we got to get better every day. Like the whole idea, it's not results driven. Obviously, we want the results. We know that that's going to be a byproduct of just getting better. And I think we're to that mindset right now. I've enjoyed this week of practice, watching these guys come out and work, and everybody individually and collectively getting better, starting with him, starting with myself.
Rutgers game last year was his first start.
Yes, sir.
It seems like he's come a long way since
Yeah.
then. What have you seen in his biggest areas of growth over the last year?
I mean, we've said it, but it always starts. I mean, when you're talking about a quarterback starting first time, just confidence, comfort level with who he's playing around. He's been at this place for a while now, right? He's been at Virginia Tech for long enough. He's got a good comfort level, good bond with his teammates, and I think that all plays into part for him being able to play like himself.
You mentioned fast starts. Aside from ODU, Vanderbilt, Marshall, is that partial feeling out what those defenses are doing, or part execution on your guys' end?
I mean, I think we can always blame everything on execution or feeling it out. I think it's some of both. I mean, I think the margin for starting fast, very similar to last game, is exactly that. It's a small margin. We've moved the ball, and it's not like I don't know if I'm remembering correctly, but I don't think we've had a 3 and out on the first drive so far. Okay, so we're moving the ball, but it comes down to those situational areas. Are we able to convert a third down? Are we able to deliver the ball on a screen pass, over the defender and it doesn't get tipped in there? I mean, all those things go in. There's a multitude of things to starting fast. Execution's part of it. I'm always going to blame it all on myself. It all starts with me. Like I'm always asking myself, am I putting us in the best position to succeed, particularly on the first drive, but obviously throughout the game. It's not something we take lightly. TFLs right now have been an issue for us. I think that has an opportunity to slow your offense down, right? Any offense is much better when you're playing on schedule, so that's been a big message to our group and us looking at it as coaches. How can we be better in that area to make sure we start fast, but not only start fast, but continue that throughout the game where there's not a lull.
Yeah, that play on the lane touchdown during the first drive last week where Parker's out wide doing jumping jacks. Basically, how long have you had that sort of cooked up? And what is the balance of those trick plays on like when to break them out and moments to use those?
Well, yeah, we don't call them tricks. We call them deceptives. First off, but we want to use them when it makes sense, right? They don't make sense for every team. Whichever ones make sense for that defensive structure, we may have a couple on the sheet, we may not, so that's been the MO. I mean, we're looking at that play no different than a drop back pass on third down or a run on P and 10. We practice those to work, and there's a progression to them and things like that. But I also think it's fun for the guys. It causes some stress to the defense, so that's something that we've, tried to do over the last year and a half here.
Bryce said he's faced that deception, I guess,
Right.
Before as a defensive coordinator. Have you run that as an offensive player?
It's a pretty.
Did you get to do the jumping jacks out?
No, I did not. I did not. I was too stiff to be on the field, so I was not. I was watching it from the sideline. But Nah, I mean, it's fun. That one's a pretty common one. You know, we want to break them out when the time's right, and if it can cause a defensive coordinator to spend a little extra time on something, then it makes sense for us. As long as it's going to work, we want to execute them for sure.
Second half of the last 2 games, you've just, I think only 11 pass attempts combined. You just turned the ball, handed to Facial, given it to Kyron. What's been the mindset after halftime the last 2 games? Is that a mindset of the identity of the team that we're just going to pound it down the rock and pick up 5-6 yards of carry?
We certainly want that to be an identity. We certainly want that to be part of our identity. But I think, you know, you look at the course of the game, it's all a byproduct of what happens the entire game, right? Are you able to do that if you only start that way? And I don't know. You know, there's a flow to the game, you know, as you're playing it, looking at it. And I think that's what's led us to do that in the second half.
And is that also a byproduct, like first week against Vanderbilt, found success throwing the ball in the second half? Is that byproduct of getting a feel for the teams in the first half and then coming out saying, this is the strength we can exploit against?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're going in with a plan based on what you see. You're also trying to forecast how you need to adjust beforehand, right? It's not just the adjustment during the game. It's also the adjustment that may be necessary for how within their structure will they try to play us, depending on what they've seen on film. Comes down to self-scout, things like that. So those are all parts of it that we look at every week.
On the Kyron scramble drill, obviously a different play call, but it had shades of Stevens' backside over touchdown, I think it was, against UVA. That's a similar play where Jalen brought it down the sideline. How does that kind of help you layer play calls when Kyron's rolling out to the right there? Yeah,
I mean, Kyron's obviously he's decent on the move. He's shown that the entire time, but you know, we always try to build those in. As far as the layering, right, we're going to have multiple things where we're able to attack the defense inside and get the ball on the edge. We want to be able to do that. I think changing the launch point certainly stresses the defense. You don't want to be in the pocket all game. You want to have the mix of being able to get the ball out of your hand fast, move the pocket, and then be able to launch it over people's heads. So I think it's all part of layering, if that's what you're asking, if I'm understanding your question correctly.
How would you judge the offensive line at this point on, obviously, one attack alleys, based on the second touchdown, a pretty big one there, walked in. How would you judge their performance so far?
I think it would be our entire offense, right? I'd be lying to you if I told you different. I think we're inconsistent right now. You know, we've got to find consistency, and I think that group's that way, the quarterback plays that way, and ultimately we've got to find a way to make that consistent going into this stretch of games.
I think with the way you guys played offensively in the second half of the season, people look at the roster and they go, all these guys are coming back next year. They maybe just expect you to pick up where you left off at the end of the season. Is it trickier than that, than just saying, 9 months later or whatever it is, that you just pick up where you left off at the end of last year?
Yeah, I think every team's different, right? No matter the same players or not, every team's different. But I'm not going to shy away. I think continuity certainly helps, right? And we've all been disappointed at times how we've started, right? I mean, that's the whole deal. I think we're all reflecting on that and putting a plan forward to be better, right? But the continuity certainly helps. But I'll also say on the same hand, even with everybody back, every team takes on a different identity. People change their bodies, skill sets change, both positive and negative. So we're finding who this team is, right? Constantly. We've been able to do that in spring and fall camp. But even though it's the same, the team's different. But I think, we'll be excited to hit our stride. And I think as long as we continue with the process-based approach of just getting better every day, I think we can do that.
Saturday was the second game where we've seen Kyron and Bashal both go for over 100 yards. What makes them so effective as a tandem in your eyes, balancing off one another?
Well, it starts with Tootin, right? I mean, it does. Even though, we talk about KD getting runs early, things like that, it certainly starts with Bashal. I think he's just got a punishing effect to the defense, right, which eventually starts collapsing edges, which provides things to the quarterback if you're going to stay in the run world, also can provide some things for pass opportunities. So I think that's what makes the 1-2 punch, and Bashal's got a unique ability to attack the perimeter, attack the inside. He can catch the ball out of the backfield, so I think his skill set lends him to be more versatile in what we're allowed to do with him.
Price said yesterday he's okay with Kyron down the field sort of delivering some blows to defensive backs. He's okay with that. As the offensive coordinator, are you okay with that?
No comment. It's certainly a tone setter for sure. I think I think Kyron's got a way when he does run like that, it ignites the team. We've seen that before, but we certainly got to be we've got to be careful with that for sure.
Johnny stepped in after Xavier went down, and he basically played the entire game for you guys. What impressed you about the way he was kind of able to step in and play well?
I wouldn't say impressed because I see him practice every day, and I thought leading into that he had his two best weeks of practice going into it. He's prepared himself well, and we feel comfortable with him going in the game at any point, whether that be a rotation or just getting in the game in general like he had to, stepping up. We talk all the time about next man up mentality, and I think he's a perfect example. He was ready for when his number was called because of how he's prepared.
Ron said in preseason that Johnny's moved to left side, he started punching harder, he started playing a little more physical. Did you notice that when he got moved to left tackle playing on the blind side, like he got a little bit more physical?
I did, and sometimes maybe it's like it's like a basketball coach or a baseball coach just making a lineup change. Maybe change is good, just at different times. And I thought you saw that, and now, Johnny's been doing a nice job bouncing around all over the place for us. So I think he provides us some versatility.
Thanks, Coach. Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. Good to see y'all. Yep.